part of this past week, I have been reflecting on an excellent Bible verse that I was kind of reintroduced to. It is Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. Paul writes in his letter to the Philippians, "For to me, life is Christ and death is gain." That is a powerful statement, something that I've been reflecting on. I want to share what that means for us in the context of life and death. And briefly, the context for Paul writing this to the Philippians is Paul seriously weighing, like, is it worth it for me to continue to try to preach this good news because he's been punished in prison so many times? He's like, I'm ready to be with my Savior, that life is Christ, life is this good news, but death is being with Christ, and maybe he's ready for that. But anyways, this has a lot of fruit for our lives. If we really look at this, what is this saying? What is this saying about the reality of the life that we are living? What is the meaning of life? Is this big question that we can ask if we look at our lives. What does life mean for us? And Paul says life is Christ. The meaning of life is Christ. The answer to all these questions: who am I? What is my life? What is the best thing that I can do? What is the truth of my life? It is Christ. Answer to all of those questions. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the life for us. Jesus said in the gospel, "I have come so that you might have life and have it to the full, have it in abundance." And that's what he's talking about. Jesus came into our world so that we could know him, because he is the meaning, the answer to everything. And if our life is to have its fullest purpose and its fullest meaning and its fullest joy in abundance, then it is to know Christ. And if we can understand that and really think about that and dive deep into that and come to accept that in a meaningful way, then we can understand that Christ is all that we need. The only thing that we really need in our lives. He's the one true, the one good, and one beautiful thing that we are made for, and that our life draws meaning from. And if that's the case, then we ought to just be all in. That's an interesting concept, and I think it's one of the kind of the main messages or words that God is trying to speak through my life, and one of the major themes of my life is being all in for Christ, just giving everything to him. What would your life look like? What would your life look like if you were truly all in for Christ? If you gave everything to him, and I mean like everything that you say and you do, if you sacrifice some things that you think you need to find joy and find meaning in your life, material things, pursuits, other things in your life, that if we can understand that Christ is all that we need, to put those things aside and to truly be all in. What if you prayed every day, multiple times a day, and prayer was the center of your life? If going to Mass, if receiving the sacraments, if forming a personal relationship with Jesus Christ was the central relationship of your life, being all in every aspect to Christ being the answer and the meaning and the purpose of your life, what could that look like? And Jesus tells us it is life in abundance. It is life to the fullest. And Paul tells us in this Bible verse right here, life is Christ. And if Christ is our life, then that is our life with meaning and purpose to the full. That's something that fires me up. It's something that should fire you up. And if we really think about it, if we can give all of our life to Christ in this life while we are living, then as Paul says, if life is Christ, then death is gain. Because if life is Christ, death is more Christ. We think about death so often in our lives. We think of it as loss, because we think of it as the end of life. But if life is Christ, it's only the beginning. It's more Christ. It's more of what we're made for in the fullest way, because we can only receive Christ and join in relationship with Christ and only an image in this world, because he's waiting for us on the other side. And especially right now, especially in the world where we're living in this COVID-19 pandemic, in the world where people are getting sick and people are dying, and there's fear about that because death is something that we see as loss. But we have hope. We have hope. If we live for Christ, if we live all in for Christ and understand that that's the meaning and purpose of our life, then death's not something to be feared. Death is not loss. Death is gain. If my life is Christ, then death is only more Christ, and death is only more of what I've made for in the fullest way. That's such a powerful message for us today. And I don't want to discount that in a very practical and tangible way. Death brings sadness. To lose someone in this life is a very sad thing. And we should take human life and life and death in a very serious way. And we should try to do our part not to advance the amount of death that is going on, but to look at it from a different lens. Because death is not all sadness and loss and despair. Because if we live for Christ, then death is not loss, but death is more Christ. Death is Christ in the fullest sense. Death is life in the fullest sense if we live for Christ. And that's why this Philippians chapter 1, verse 21 is so powerful, a message for us today. One, that in this life, to live for Christ because Christ is the meaning and purpose of our life, and that Christ is here to bring us all that we were made to be, life to the full, but that life doesn't end in death, but that life becomes only the beginning of all that we were made for, that death is only gain as we move closer, hopefully, to the fullness of life, in communion, in relationship, intimate relationship with Christ, in heaven, in the place that we were all made for. That gets me fired up. I hope that my passion and energy showed through in this video.